Hello, and welcome to Postcards from a Soul and Her Human. I'm the human Gina. Thank you for joining me today. It is a rainy day in June 23rd, and it is a very brief cooling down from a massive heat wave that we've been in for the last week or so. So I'm grateful for that. I wasn't planning on recording today, and this seems to be my method that I really don't know when I'm going to record until I'm inspired to do so. And I was sitting and drinking my tea at my back window as I do most mornings, and I was overwhelmed with a feeling that sent me on a trail of thoughts that led me up here to my office and to my microphone. And so here I am. Honestly, this is one of the few times lately that I really don't know what I'm going to talk about. I have an idea from this feeling, and I'm just going to go with it and talk about my progress, or the progress of my journey in this lifetime. The last episode was about the messages I have been receiving from my counterpart, or my twin flame, and how they have reconditioned my heart for this love union, and how I have really been brought through an incredible process of deconstructing my old heart, discarding it and rebuilding a new one in this higher frequency. And it's been incredible. It's been extraordinary. And there's been so many things that have changed about me that I hadn't really noticed until I was serendipitously shown a video that talked about the changes that I've undergone. And just briefly, I just want to share these because they're truly incredible. I've gone through what's known as an ascension, an expansion, or I'm going through. And this is not anything new. It's not anything unique to me. It is something that many, many of us, or actually all of us, to some degree are going through right now, because this is a time where the earth is ascending. The earth, who is a being, is ascending in her frequency, and it is affecting all the life that she supports. Some of us more than others. And I've talked about my journey through this quite a bit. And it's just remarkable to really look back and notice the changes in me that have taken place. And something that I really didn't understand or didn't maybe realize at first are the physical changes. And, I'd said when I first started this podcast 2 years ago, when I talked about my ex-husband and what I went through in that healing, I mentioned that I lost over 30 pounds, and I was never an oversized person. So, weight loss for me, I was pretty much the same weight my whole life. I fluctuate up and down 10 pounds. And as you get older, you gain about 10 pounds a decade, whether you're thinner or not, heavier or not. It just is, it's the weight of your body, or I guess your organs or whatever. But I lost over 30 pounds very quickly, early on. And it is 3 years later, actually in 2 days will be the anniversary of my death. And I say that with all love possible, because that's the day that my ex-husband finally moved out of my house, the day I ended up in hospital with an energetic breakdown, and the day my healing and awakening really began. And of course, it began long before that. I had many signs looking back that it had already begun long before I finally got out of that relationship. And it was because of this ascension that I was able to finally get out of this relationship. It was because of the energetic transmutation I was undergoing, that I was finally able to untangle myself from a karmic soulmate. And the magnetism that was between us, that I describe me leaving him, even though I was devastated, unhappy, and miserable, and I couldn't leave, I couldn't get away from him. I couldn't force him to go. I didn't have the energy, and I know there's a lot going on there, but the truth of it is we haven't had a magnetic connection, which is a soulmate connection. Now, he happened to be a karmic soulmate. So his purpose in my life, his role, was to break me so I could experience my awakening. And you hear this story over and over again about people who suffered a tragedy or a near-death experience, and that's what catalyzed or caused or ignited their spiritual awakening. Well, mine was a devastating relationship that was with a man who hid himself for 24 years. So the magnetism between us was a knot in the energy between us that could not be undone. It had to be ripped apart. And I described that kind of unknowingly, that relationship ending with my higher self pulling me by the ear out of that relationship and and forcing me to finally detach from him. And that magnetism remained for months afterwards. Even though I knew who he was now and that he was toxic to me and that we had no future together and that I couldn't heal with him in my energy field, I still wanted to go back. I remember the last entry about me wanting to go back in that relationship was 5 months after that happened. So it's that magnetism is very real. But I do want to again talk about these physical changes. The over 30 pound. I don't have a scale. I don't weigh myself. I don't believe in that. I go by how my clothes fit, and I don't wear stretchy clothes. That's not true anymore. I do actually now more than ever. But I usually like to wear a pair of jeans, and I know what size I am, how my jeans fit me. Although it's hard to find jeans that aren't stretchy these days, so maybe that's not as true as it used to be. But all this weight came off, and I assumed it was because, any person knows who goes through a difficult breakup that you usually lose a lot of weight because of the crying and the emotional, horror that we have to go through in order to recover. You generally lose weight. So I assumed that that's what that was. Well, it's 3 years later, and that weight has remained off. It's remained off without any effort on my part at all. I mean, zero. I don't watch what I eat. I don't think about my weight. I don't, like I said, weigh myself. I exercise in a reasonable manner. I don't think about it at all. But what has happened is over the last 3 years, my diet has completely changed. And I've always been a relatively healthy person, but it has just gone to the point where would not call myself a vegetarian because I like a burger now and then, but I rarely eat any meat. And it's not because I try to avoid it. Again, there's no intention here. It's just what's happened in this transmutation, this lighter frequency energy, which from what I understand has broken apart the denser three-dimensional energy in my body and discarded it through my emotions or my tears or my sweat, or I'm sure there are other ways that this energy gets purged out of my body. And along with this, and the reason for the initial weight loss, which I just realized recently in this video that I watched about ascension and what you go through, I didn't understand until I saw that weight loss was due to the healing that I was undergoing, not the emotional crying and the weight loss that's from that usually you gain right back on. Just like when you get the flu and you lose 5 pounds, you gain it right back on. It's because I purged the toxic energy that I carried in my body that allowed me to stay in that relationship. So this is the three-dimensional carbon-based heavy dense energy that I had, that I was comprised of while in that relationship and all the relationships and every situationship before this awakening. And I didn't understand this at all. I just assumed I lost weight and it stayed off. I was kind of happy about that, but this is all part of the process. The frequency, the change in the vibrational frequency of the body breaks apart and discards that old dense carbon-based energy and replaces it with this crystalline or crystalline energy, which is delivered by the sun and the universe through the sun rays and photon rays from other means of illumination. And these come into the body, they inform the cells to start to break apart the old body and to rebuild it into this lighter frequency, lighter density energy. And that the lightening of my density is quite literally the density of my physical body changes to a lighter density. So it uh, it can't hold on. And I've said this before, not really knowing why, that it can't hold on to the lower frequency baggage that we carry. So the toxic energy that was built up and accumulated in my body was released during that awakening early on in the first few months. And that toxic energy left my body, which was really the first steps in transmutating my old energy, or my old 3D me, into this higher frequency, higher dimensional version of myself. And so it's 3 years later, and the weight's still off and without any effort at all. Another thing that has happened besides the dietary changes is, of course, changes in my tolerance for temperature. I can't tolerate very hot temperatures or very cold temperatures. I like the in between. This for the first time in my life, I look forward to fall and winter rather than summer, because summer, especially lately, can be very hot, and I end up just indoors. My sensitivity to noise and drama, my what I watch on TV preferences have changed. I used to enjoy horror movies and scary things, and now I avoid them at all costs, and I can't watch dramas, really, honestly. I can't watch anything overtly violent, because it's my sensibilities are not tuned into it anymore, I guess, for a better way to put it. Now I watch documentaries and things about the universe, and it's just crazy how much it has changed. I still love sci-fi, but only if the alien isn't portrayed as a threat, which is an odd thing, but that's something that I'll turn off a sci-fi movie if the alien is the bad guy. Probably because I understand more on a cellular level than my mind does about my own roots in this universe. And my behavior has changed. The way I feel about other people and life in general has changed. My connection to the earth has gotten so powerful that I feel like a sister to the trees and the animals. It's incredible. When I go outside, I talk to them. The connection is real. And this is because I understand that I am every tree and I am every animal. We are just fragments of a consciousness that have broken off to have an individualized experience. And I know that in my body, my cellular body, my spiritual body, my soul is connected intrinsically to every other life, every other consciousness. So this earth, who is a being, a consciousness, a life, I feel innately connected to her. And it's just remarkable how this has changed my heart rate and I just am such a more calm and still and quiet, not necessarily outwardly quiet. I've always been a quiet person, but just the stillness in my body is foundational. And these are just a few of the changes. There's so many more, but one of the really interesting outward or external changes besides the weight loss is my eye color has changed. And I found this really interesting because I've been remarking over the last few years that my eye color seems to be changing. I even asked my optometrist when I got my eye exam, I said, is it possible for eye color to change over time? Because my eyes used to be a medium brown and they had a lot of depth. I always considered them beautiful, but they were brown. There wasn't really no other color in them. And I noticed over the years that they become more green. And I remember one time years ago with my ex-husband when we were doing something and he was getting frustrated and I was getting frustrated. And he looked at me and he said, "Why are your eyes green right now?" And I just remember thinking, I have no idea. But my eyes have gotten green. So over the last several months, though, as I look in my eyes, I'm noticing it changing again. And I guess I didn't really think it was possible, so I didn't really look too deeply at it until I watched this video that said that brown eyes can turn amber. And I thought, oh my goodness. So I went and looked in the mirror, and my eyes are not brown at all anymore. They are deep amber around the pupil, and there's a light gold around the deep amber. A very, very faint, beautiful light gold color around the amber. And then around the rim of my eye is green. It's a muddy green, but there's no brown in my eyes anymore. And it's just the oddest thing. And I thought I was crazy. But it's true. It is an external expression of the ascension in the body, the weight loss and the eye color change. So it's really quite remarkable. And I just wanted to talk about that a little bit because I've been writing in my book about all these things. And so I figured I'd mention that if anyone is going through something similar, these outward external changes or changes to your preferences or your tolerances are very likely caused by ascension, which is the raising of your vibrational frequency. So if you think about vibrational frequency, and this is interesting because I've always kind of known this, but again, getting context from material that I view or read, it gives me the vocabulary to describe it. So if an energy is denser, that means that it vibrates slower. The vibration of the energy is slower, and therefore the density is heavier. So I watched a movie with my granddaughter, which was remarkable. And again, there's no mistakes of what I'm exposed to. The movie was called Epic. It's a Disney movie. And it, again, gave me more context to what I understand with my body, but I didn't really get intellectually that about frequency is the movie is about this guy who is looking for life in another frequency. He knows that there's something out there that exists in the woods and the forest that isn't human and that he can't seem to find because it's too small or it's in another dimension. He has this understanding of this, and everybody thinks he's nuts. But his daughter ends up falling upon this kingdom of creatures in another dimension. And it's another frequency is what it is. So the way they described this, or the way they presented this in the movie, was so wonderful, because when the human saw this other dimensional being, the being flickered in and out of sight. So it gave you the impression that the being in the higher dimension was vibrating so high that he could barely see it. And this really helped give context to me about frequency and about density of the body, and how this density the density of my body has changed so much because my frequency has been increased, or is so much faster. I'm vibrating faster than I ever have before. And if you think of a rock is vibrating very slowly and has a very dense body. You can't put your fingers through it or hand through it, and it's heavy to pick up. And if you think about the frequency of, oh boy, I had a good example before. I don't remember what it was. Of mist or a ghost. If you see an embodiment of a ghost or an entity, they are vibrating so high that you can barely see them. They barely appear physical, or they have no density. And that is because their energy is vibrating so much higher. So when you watch a hummingbird in flight, you can barely see the wings because they're moving so quickly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. The frequency, the higher it is, the higher it vibrates, the faster it vibrates, the less dense the physical form is. And we cannot perceive it if it's at a high enough frequency. Just like a dog can hear sounds that human ear isn't tuned into, that we don't have the frequency access to hear. It's the same thing. So as my body the frequency is being raised, it's becoming less dense, and it requires less food. And I actually get nourishment from the sun and from the photon rays from the universe. This is called the crystalline body. So my body has been transmuted from a carbon-based body to a crystalline body. And this crystalline energy is much more refined, and the body vibrates at much higher frequency. And this is how I had a dimensional shift. And this dimensional shift is what made, and I did this 2 episodes about this before the last one, where I talked about how I sensed or felt this dimensional shift in my body, how I knew that I was now aligned with the energy or the gravitational pull or the frequency resonation of my future life in this earth-bound incarnation, and how I just knew that that was happening. And another and more evidence of this ascension is something that I didn't have the vocabulary to talk about before, but now, of course, in the same video, I'm given this incredible vocabulary, and it's called spontaneous knowing. And this is something that was just so intriguing to me, because this has happened to me over and over and over. And I refer to it as divine inspiration, because that's really what it is. It's my higher self, or it's beings who have access to me through my intuition, that are either my soul team, who are spirit guides and ancestors, or they may be deities or gods or extraterrestrials. They have access to speak to me if they vibrate in a way that I'm vibrating. So because of this resonation that is necessary for me to receive messages, I'm not tuned into the lower vibrational frequencies anymore. So I cannot hear the lower vibrational entities who may have had access to me long ago. And this is a whole nother subject matter that I won't go into now, but this frequency, this resonation, is what allows this intuitive channel to be so powerful. And I've always regarded it as divine inspiration, but what it's actually called is spontaneous knowing. And a good example of this is the article that I wrote, the last one I wrote back in April and May, called Resurrection of the Goddess. And I subtitled it Awakening the Goddess DNA. And this is what I went through, was an awakening of dormant DNA in my DNA strands, the junk DNA, quote unquote, that had been awakened by this energetic frequency change, by this dimensional shift, which allows me access to incredible knowledge without me having to know it or learn it, I should say. It just spontaneously occupies my understanding. And the article was about co-creation, which is the ability, the godlike ability or goddess-like ability to manifest your reality. And I talk about manifestation in the article, and I have mentioned it before. I'm not talking about the traditional manifestation that we are most familiar with from what we've learned through whatever medium we learn it. This is a godlike ability to change your entire reality. And I described this in detail through the article and through the podcast episodes that I did. And I didn't know how I knew this. And this is something that I've experienced many, many times, but this was the most profound experience that I've ever had, was knowing what co-creation was without knowing how I knew it. And this I described as just an epiphany. And that's what an epiphany is. It's instantaneous knowing. You suddenly have access to something you didn't know before, and it comes from a place outside of us. It's from us. It's from a higher version of us. Or again, it could be other beings. But this is the intuitive channel that gets jacked up or gets bionic when the higher frequency energy starts to integrate in the body, and this is what I went through. This is what I went through. All of the energetic episodes that I experienced, that some were quite scary and disruptive. I passed out. I remember I thought I needed to call the hospital because I felt this incredible pressure in my upper body. I didn't know what was happening. And then I Googled, should I go to the hospital or is this ascension? And I got my answer, because my soul team is always listening to me, telling me what I need to know so I can carry on without thinking that I'm going insane. And I know for a lot of people, especially born after the 1990s, or I should say the 1980s, that this upgrade or this transmutation doesn't have to be so radical. I came from a generation where we came into this incarnation deeply embedded in the lower frequencies to have this incredible sensory experience. And then because my soul planned it for this lifetime, she broke me out of that energy and she debriefed me or de-brainwashed me because I believed that I was that lower frequency lady who didn't deserve love, who experienced abuse because I felt like it was my burden to carry, and on and on and on. The behavior of someone who is stuck in the lower frequencies. And you can't get out on your own. And I don't mean to say that for anyone to lose hope. I just mean that your soul has to ready you for it. I didn't just wake up one day and say, oh, I feel like I've been in a dungeon. I'm going to crawl out and go into the, onto the earth now and enjoy the sun for the first time. I had no idea I was in a dungeon, that I was lost in a haunted forest. I had no idea. It isn't until you transform, quite literally, that you realize that. So this spontaneous knowing is another outward effect of this incredible transformation from my dense carbon-based energy to this new crystalline or crystalline energy, which is the light that has entered my body that has replaced most of the deeply physical or dense aspects of my physical body. And again, it has caused change in my diet. I cannot eat frozen foods, only because not all, I can eat frozen vegetables if there's no sodium, but I can't eat frozen pizzas, which I used to love. I don't use to eat frozen meals anymore because of the sodium content. I've become so ultra aware of sodium. And again, this is no accident. Sodium is terrible for the body. And I'm sure in natural sources it's fine, but we overload our bodies with sodium and we don't even realize it. And sodium causes inflammation in the body. It causes the body to retain fluid, and that fluid builds up and it causes disease in the body. This is what inflammation is, and most disease is caused by inflammation. And this is one of the reasons why I do earthing every day or grounding. I go barefoot on the ground. Because the ground calibrates the body's energy and synchronizes it with the earth's energy, and it removes instantaneously all of that inflammation. So if you take away sodium and you stand on the earth, you can do the math. It is an incredible healing exercise and practice, and I do it every day. So I avoid foods with too much sodium, so I don't eat anything canned anymore. Until you start looking at labels, you don't realize how much sodium you're ingesting. I stopped eating hummus, which was one of my favorite foods, because the sodium is insane. Because for some reason, chickpeas have tons of sodium in them. I don't know why, but they do. Maybe just the way they're packaged, preserved. I don't know. So it has changed my diet almost completely. I don't cook with meat anymore, and I didn't a lot, but I have an aversion now to doing it. And will never consider myself a vegetarian because I like a burger once in a while. So there's nothing perfect going on here. It's just really incredible to see what's going on and how outwardly my life has changed. My faith and trust in what's meant for me will come to me is absolute. And it's almost like it is like that when the density of your body gets broken apart, everything that could embed itself in that energy also leaves you. So fear, anxiety, insecurities, really, and I always will have some. I'm not saying that I'm just talking about overall, like overarching insecurities. Like I can't be disillusioned by anyone anymore. I can't, nobody has the power to do that because I'm so aware that everyone else is going through their own dark night and navigating their own journey that for most of us is in the lower frequencies. So it would be like letting a barking dog ruin my day. It's like, no, the dog barks. That's its nature. It's up to me to understand that the dog is just doing what a dog does. It's the same thing when I think about humanity. There's no disillusionment there anymore. It's gone. Anger, frustration even is rare. It's so short-lived because there's nowhere for it to embed, to stick in my body. And you know what I'm saying? It doesn't stay. It's quite remarkable, actually. So that's all different. It's almost like, and this is what living effortlessly and in this contentment is all about. It has allowed me to truly just lay back into the natural flow of my life and know that if I need to do something, I will feel inspired to do it. And again, this is that intuitive channel. I don't have to think about, what do I need to do next? Oh my gosh, do I need to get a job? Do I need to save more money? Do I need to change my investments? Do I need to move? I don't have to think about any of it. And I used to think about all of that because I know in this clear, higher frequency, in this high vibrating body, I'm so tuned into my intuitive channel and to how I feel too, not just to what I get that ends up as a thought, which is what most people think of intuition. It's the feeling in my body. How do I feel right now? And this has taught me to live my life by how I feel. So I don't have to worry how I'm going to feel and what decision I'm going to make down the road. I can wait until I get down the road and see how I feel. It takes away all of that anxiety, all of that strategizing, all of that trying to get ahead of the game that we do in this life to stay on top of things. That has all fallen away. I don't worry about any of it. I don't have a thought of it. It doesn't even enter my thoughts. But this feeling in my body, and I talked about this in several episodes when I was looking for a job, when I thought I was needed somewhere, quote unquote, which was a message in the tarot for a couple of years. I thought I had to get a job and that I'm going to be needed somewhere like that. And of course, I was wired to get a job because I'd always worked and my money was running out and it's time to get a job. And I started to look for a job. And when I got to a certain point, I felt in my body the energy for it just completely drain out. And I talked about this before where I went and had to lay down. And it wasn't until I got up the next morning that I realized my body was telling me, you don't have to find a job. And then I would open my social media and the message would be, follow your heart. Everything else will fall into place. And my heart was with my girls. So I knew in a moment, I'm meant to spend these couple of years with my girls because my life is going to change one day and I'm going to be taken away from them. And that's why I'm given this concentrated period of time to bond with them, to spend this incredible time with them. And I'm spending every moment that my daughter will let me with them because this is my time to be with them. So see what I'm saying? It's this feeling. It's not just thoughts. It's the way my body feels. And I was given this advice early on in the tarot. And I'll mention it again because it's worth remembering. Sleep when you're tired. Eat when you're hungry. Work when you're inspired. And that is how I live my life. I don't care what time it is or what day it is. Linear time is another thing that starts to break apart. Like I don't look at the clock to tell me anything other than what time of day it is. It's honestly, it's remarkable how much has changed. I don't think about time the same way as I used to. I don't go to bed late or sleep in. I don't get up early. I don't do anything at any certain time except for if I have to be somewhere, which is rarely. It's just like the whole construct has changed, or maybe more realistically, it's broken apart. It's really about. It's just extraordinary, this increase in vibration in the body and how it has changed me from the inside out. And it's interesting, I didn't mention this before, but during the 3 weeks or 4 weeks that I was writing the article, Resurrection of the Goddess, it was during the solar eclipse that all of this energy came in that caused this kind of like expedited transmutation of whatever was left to transmute out of my old energy into the higher frequencies in this dimensional frequency that I shifted into. And I don't know what number it is. I don't pay attention to that. I have no idea if it's the 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th dimension. It could be any of those. But it allowed me to have this spontaneous knowing, which was the co-creation article. It allowed me to have an understanding that my energy was now being pulled into a new direction which I described as well. And while I was having all of these epiphanies and realizations, these spontaneous knowings, and doing all this, creating the article, the podcast episodes, I was in this highly creative state. Is almost like it was channeled, and I shouldn't say almost, it was being channeled through me, is really what was happening. And that's what intelligence is. It's channeled through the consciousness of the universe, through all that I am a part of. But while all this was happening, I would go outside of my back door every day in the early evening, and I would do my grounding. I would go barefoot onto the ground and spend up to a half an hour just standing on the earth and just gazing at all the life around me and just appreciating everything in a way that I can't when I'm indoors. And every day I would go out. This was during about a 3-week period. There'd be a little butterfly, and I'm used to seeing butterflies on occasion, but I don't get a lot of them in my yard. And this beautiful little butterfly was flitting around my back sliding glass doors, which is where I came out. And when I'm standing on the grass, which is just off of my patio, which is, I have a pretty good sized patio, I'm standing there and I notice her flying around the door. And then landing on the frame of the door. And if you have been through what I've been through, where I've had so many spiritual symbols from animals throughout my journey here, and they'll all be described in my book. I don't know how many I've talked about on the mic, but I've had many, many spiritual symbols that have helped me understand and validate what I was going through. So I thought that, maybe this might be one, but it's one time I'm seeing them. Usually I need to see them multiple times, or at least be aware that something's happening. So I saw this little butterfly. She's flying around. The whole time I'm out there, she's flying around. I go indoors and I come inside my sliding glass doors and I close the door, and I have a little mat there, and I am cleaning off my feet because I was standing in the grass. And as I'm doing that, that little butterfly comes and lands on the rail of my door, which is literally just the glass pane between us. She's sitting right there. And she sat there for a good 30 seconds to make sure I saw her. And then she flit off. And I knew that once she wanted to get my attention, that she was there for a reason other than just because she was in the area. So the next several days, the same thing happened. She didn't always land on the rail, but she was always outside. And I would talk to her. I'd say, "What are you doing here? Are you somebody that I know?" I didn't know why she was there, but I knew she was there for a reason. So the couple of weeks went by, and every day she's out there. And I would talk to her, and I would ask her, are you somebody that, are you a visitation? Are you somebody that I should be aware of? I mean, are you here for a reason? Do you have a message? And I would just talk to her. And I never really understood why she was there. Well, after the article was finished, after I did the podcast episodes, and I was in this kind of like understanding of everything I had gone through, I had the epiphany about co-creation, and I had all the other realizations about this dimensional shift. And I went outside, and there she was, and flitting around me. And then this time she flew around my head, which she really didn't do. And she landed next to me on one of the cement pillars that are on my patio, which was literally, I could reach out and touch her. She was right there. And I looked at her and I said, "I know what a butterfly means." Like I was telling her something she didn't know. I said, "A butterfly means transformation." And then I just realized, I'm like, oh, I was laughing at myself. I said, "Oh, I get it." You're here to validate that I'm going through this transformation, that I'm really literally going from this chrysalis to this butterfly. And I laughed and I told her I understood. And I did the rest of my grounding. She flew around a little bit and then she left. She was gone. And I thought, okay, I got the message. So she left. And I went out the next day and she was there again. I said, "Oh, hi. I didn't realize that you'd be back." And she stayed for literally a few minutes, maybe 3 minutes, and then she was gone. And I haven't seen her since. And I feel like that last visitation was just an acknowledgement that, yep, you did get me. You did get the message, and I appreciate that you did. And I just want to say goodbye, is what it felt like. So this beautiful little colorful butterfly flew off, and I have not seen her since. And that was back in the early May, and it's late June. So this is just an example of the validation I received, the incredible connection that I have with source or the soul realm, however you want to look at it. And this validation has been present throughout my entire transformation in one way or another. Another recent example of this is I was led to a video that I was watching about the signs of transformation or the signs of ascension. And it's funny because I see these kind of frequently, but I don't often really open them anymore because I don't feel like I need much validation these days of what I'm going through. My intuitive connection is so powerful. I don't really ask questions anymore. I really don't ask for validation. I just trust it. And but this one, I did open this one, and it was talking about different signs or different feelings that you have if when you're going through an ascension, and something that I've really have wondered about throughout. I don't even know how long this has been going on. At least the last couple of years, since I was notified that I would be receiving downloads as I slept. Uh, and to lie in bed in the morning and let it permeate my awareness. And that has been, honestly, everything I've created, the podcast, the articles, have been, I shouldn't say everything, I don't want to exaggerate, but a lot of it has been created from these morning realizations of something in my life, and they're all reflected in the podcast episodes and in the articles. You can see them all there, everything that I've learned through these downloads. And I also learn it through exposure to nature. I was led very early on to, while I'm outside, to talk to nature and let the trees and the grass and the living creatures know that I'm here to gather information that they carry. Nature is, the earth is a realm of information. It was created as a library for the universe to store their vast knowledge. And it's not just the humans. I think I've mentioned this before. It's also the earth, who is a being, in all the life that she supports. So when I'm outside, I would say this meditation, basically, that I'm here to receive the information that you have stored, and I'm going to use that to translate and then transduce out into the world. And that's something that's a meditation I did for a long time that helps bring this information in from the natural world around me. But as I was watching this video, it was talking about other things that you may be experiencing. And one thing is that I've been experiencing since at least a couple of years ago, when I learned of the downloads, is I wake up exhausted. And I've always kind of waited for this phase to end. When am I not going to feel exhausted in the morning when I wake up? And I can sleep. It doesn't matter how long I sleep. I can sleep 4 or 6 hours or even 8. And it's not every single morning, but most mornings. And I believe I get notification of this. Like, I watched that video that was an indicator that, yes, you're exhausted for this reason. And I'm like, oh, this is a validation. But what it actually turned out to be was kind of a notification that it's going to get really, you're going to notice this a lot more. And once I watched the video for the next several days, including today, I've woken up or awakened exhausted, yawning, and feeling like I need to go back to bed. And I did actually this morning. I woke up after 7 hours of sleep. I made my breakfast and my tea, and I sat down for about 20 minutes at my back window, and I ended up taking an hour nap on my couch right before I started working today on this episode. So this has become definitely something I've noticed more. And it went on to explain that the reason that I'm exhausted is because my soul, when I go to sleep, is leaves me, and she goes off and is working with a community of souls who are cleaning something up, and I don't remember what it was, but there's not a lot of people, is how it was put, that are working on this project, and I'm one of the souls that volunteered to help with this cleanup. So when I go to sleep, my soul goes off and has this other job that she's doing. And I think I mentioned earlier, I don't know if what episode it was, that my soul probably spends time with our counterpart, with my twin flame, when I'm sleeping. It might have been this episode. And I'm a little disoriented as evidence of this exhaustion. And so when she returns, when I wake up, I am still tired. I don't feel rested. And this is also a reason that was told to me, that I'm awakened so often during the night that I'll wake up at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. and sometimes every hour on the hour. And it's because my soul or my higher self wakes me up to integrate information that's coming in and that I need to be awake for in order to ground into this physical realm. And I actually purchased by the recommendation of my soul team. And some people might think this is funny, but I talked about how I receive a lot of messages currently from my twin flame that have reconditioned my heart for this union. My last episode was about that. But I also receive product recommendations in the advertising. And at first, I didn't really notice this at all. But after a while, I started to realize that these are items that I could actually use that either help improve my well care routine or my beauty routine. Because I'll say out loud, I wish I had something that I could wear every day, referring to makeup that isn't actually makeup, because I really can't wear makeup anymore. But I do sometimes want to look a little more polished. And I don't even have to say it out loud. I can be thinking of it. And then something comes up into my advertising that reflects that thought. And people might say, well, if you say it out loud, the algorithms on your phone pick it up, and that's why you'll get the advertisements. And I did think about that, and that is possible for sure. But a lot of times I'm not saying this out loud. It's just my thoughts. Actually, most times I'm not. And one of the products that was recommended to me out of the blue, not based on any research I've done, which I know is another reason why you'll receive certain product advertisements in your social medias, because I looked up something on my phone and then it shows up as an advertisement or something similar that I'm aware of, but again, unrelated to anything I've researched. And it's products that promote grounding or earthing. And this is something I talked about many times. I ground or earth every day. I spend up to a half an hour in my bare feet on the earth as a part of my well care routine. And because it balances the energetic or the magnetic electromagnetic energy in my body, it calibrates it to the earth, and it takes away, like I said, all of the inflammation in my body. So it's something I do every day. But this was a product that you can actually ground while you sleep, and it was made by a person who serendipitously I was aware of. A man named Clint Ober, who did a movie on Gaia TV called Earthing, about how he accidentally discovered grounding and how important it was to his health. He was going through health issues, and he was actually an electrician. I think he was a linesman, so he understood electricity, and he accidentally had this discovery that the barefoot on the earth causes this calibration in the body. And he did an experiment on his own with metal tape and a wire, and he discovered that he could bring this grounding into his bed, and as he slept, he could be grounded to the earth, which of course is another 8 hours or so of this beneficial connection to our Mother Earth and her energetic connection to our bodies. And how we are so much like a tree, but we are not planted in the ground. We just don't really understand that, and why it's so important to be outside, to be on the earth barefoot. And I've since replaced my rubber-soled shoes just recently with a pair of leather shoes. I can't wear the rubber-soled anymore, because when I put my foot in the shoe, I can feel the toxicity of the rubber going into my foot. And this was part of the frequency awareness, or the awareness of frequency, however is best put, that has caused me in this transformation to change a lot of things in my life. And this is another thing. I had bought a pair of earthling shoes several months ago, so during the winter months I could stand on the ground and still do my earthing when I didn't want to be barefoot in the snow, because I live in the Midwest. And I didn't wear them very often, and I realized I wore them more and more as it got cold. And then I realized, actually it wasn't that long ago, I need a pair of shoes for every day that have a leather sole. And I have a pair, so I just started to wear them. And I haven't discarded my other shoes, because I'm sure I may need them, but I can't put them on every day mindlessly and go about my day knowing that this chemical concoction of rubber is on the sole of my foot, which happens to be a portal, or a very sensitive part of the body in receiving energy. So I have since changed to my leather shoe full time, and I don't know how that's going to work overall, but for now, in the summer months, that's what I'm doing. So this product that came into my advertising was for a earthing mattress cover. And I knew of this person, Clint Ober, from the movie, and I saw this advertisement for a grounding mattress cover, and I thought, oh, this might be interesting. And I always kind of wait for it to appear several times before I really look into it, just to see if it's something that's um, persistent. And that tells me that my soul team is feeling like this might be beneficial for me. So I opened the advertisement, but then what I do then is I research that particular product, and then I research others to find the best one. I don't just take the product that is advertised, because it may not be the one that I want. It just happens to be a grounding product that is using social media to advertise. So, and this is another thing that I've realized. It's not necessarily that product. It may be that family of products. So anyway, I researched it and I found a product by Clint Ober, who is the man who kind of accidentally discovered earthing. And he did the movie with Gaia TV called Earthing. And there's a book as well. So I researched it's a really price conscious or inexpensive in my opinion item. So I ordered this mattress cover, and it lays over your mattress. You can put a sheet over it, although cotton is recommended, but that's what I use because cotton doesn't block the conductivity between your skin and the mattress, which is lined with silver, which is the conduit which the grounding runs through. It's a really interesting science. It's so simple and beautiful, just like everything that's good for you is simple and beautiful. So I've been using this mattress cover for the last several weeks as an aid to help me ground this energy as I sleep, so I don't have to be awakened so often. And I have noticed that I've been awakened a lot less often. Now, it doesn't necessarily help me wake up more rested, which is one of the advertising benefits, but I understand why. I am my soul is off doing this other job while I'm sleeping, and I am when she comes back into my body, I wake up exhausted. I mean, like I use because I giggle in the morning. I say I feel like I just did a rodeo, like I rode bulls or a bucking bronco. I wake up exhausted, and on those days, and today is one of them, I have to rest. I have to make sure that I rest as much as I can. So that's what I've been doing. So this validation, it extends to not just what I'm going through mentally and emotionally, but physically as well. And I've talked about a lot of these too. But these validations have been incredible, and they've really been the backbone of my ability to integrate this transformation without unnecessary worry or stress or concern. Because a lot of what I'm gone through, if someone didn't know any better, would be at the doctor's office every other week saying, what the hell is wrong with me now? I mean, there's so many different things that have that express physically, the exhaustion, the energetic turmoil in my body that I can feel. I've talked about that. There's so much more too, but I don't want to go on and on. But I just wanted to talk about this incredible transformation and how it has changed literally every part of my life. And I believe that it's prepared me for the next phase of my life, which is to come into union with my twin flame. And I'll talk about that in another episode, because there's a whole other time piece there that I don't want to burden you with. That I know my episodes can run long, and I try to allow them to go however long they need to go, but I do want to be aware of that. So I'm going to close this episode and thank you for your attention and your presence with me while I take this journey and while I have this incredible experience. And I appreciate your presence very much. And I know that you're meant to be here with me as I'm meant to be here with you. So have a wonderful day and get outside in your bare feet. Thanks.